If you don't like it, then you're part of the problem, because all they're doing is standing up for equality.
July 2018, the Luzhniki Stadium, Moscow. We all remember the headlines. Football won't be coming home. Fast forward 3 years, 2:00, Wembley Stadium, Sunday, the Group D opener for England against Croatia once more, the old foes. Could football this time really be coming home? Emile Heskey, welcome once again to bookmakers.co.uk. Opening question, football, is it coming home?
We're very optimistic, and we love it when these tournaments come around, because that is the major thing, isn't it? Is it coming home? We love getting behind our lads and putting pressure on them and spurring them on at times. I think the least pressure we put on them, the more chance we've got of it coming home.
I hear you, and yet you think back, it feels like a blink of the eye a few minutes ago in your mindset of that Mario Mandzukic winner in Moscow. Can England banish that memory? Because is there any threat of there still being a hangover? And it seems almost cruel that the first opponent 3 years later, lo and behold, is Croatia. They need a perfect start, England. They're 4-5. Will that be in the back of their minds, or is this a new day, new dawn, forget the past?
I think forget the past, and it's new players, it's younger players, it's fresh legs, it's fresh minds, it's players that don't overthink things. We've seen it before. 2004, a fresh face, Wayne Rooney, bursting onto the scene and absolutely bullying everyone. Can we have that with the Jack Grealishes? Can we have that with the Phil Fodens? Can we have that with the Mason Mounts and Reece Jameses? So I think we need to banish all that. Again, we overthink things sometimes. We've got a young, good, fresh group of lads who could just go out there and express themselves.
There's few things more exciting than an international tournament, but an international tournament, exactly that, the immense overflowing potential of new players, fresh players, young players, the vitality, the energy that brings. You're working coaching at Leicester City Football Club nowadays. You're seeing young players coming through, the possibility that brings. With that comes a problem for Gareth Southgate, because does he have to find a way to try and include the likes of, and these are exciting players, doesn't matter who you support week in, week out, Jack Grealish, Phil Foden, Mason Mount. Has he got to try and find some way to shoehorn all three in and really go for it? Because if he does, you just think, wow, anything's possible.
This is deja vu, isn't it? This is the problem that we've always had, trying to fit as many players in as possible. But what we've got to do, we've got to find a balance. We can't really just put everyone in thinking that it's gonna click. We ended up playing Paul Scholes left wing, one of our greatest ever central midfielders. We ended up playing him left wing just to fit him in. I think we've got to be sensible with it. We've got some fantastic players, and it's not just for this one game, it's for the long haul. So bringing players on a bit later, fresh-legged, to go out there and expose tired legs is a wonderful thing. We've got different formations. You haven't even mentioned Marcus Rashford. You haven't mentioned Raheem Sterling. Players like that who bring so much to the team as well. We've got so much ability, Jadon Sancho, that we've got to be careful that we just don't start throwing everyone on the pitch and think it's going to click. We've got to have balance.
Well, we've just, between us, mentioned 5 names there, and they're 5 footballers that any team in the world would be absolutely thrilled to have as potentially part of their starting 11. If you were Gareth Southgate, Jack Grealish, Foden, Mount, Sterling, Rashford, who for this opener in Group D would you rely upon, and who would you leave on the bench?
I actually did my starting 11, and I had Rashford on the bench. I had a front three of Foden, Sterling, and Kane, and then I had Mason Mount and Grealish behind them, with Rice in a holding midfielder role.
Given what you know, and perhaps you know a lot more than pretty much any of us, and maybe there's some bits you're not allowed to disclose, but what are you hearing about Maguire? Will he be fit central defence? What was your pick for central defenders. That's a really interesting aspect because
I don't think he'll be fit for that. I think he's already come out and said that he won't be fit for this game. I think it's when you're looking at, he hasn't played since February. And then I think this was one of his first. I think yesterday or the day before was one of his first days on the pitch.
Yes,
it's very tough to see him actually playing any part of that game. To be honest with you, especially being a defender that he is, where you rely on your power, etc., and you've got to get back within training, several days of training. So for me, I actually had Tyrone Mings as because I wanted a bit of a balance of a left-footed left-sided player. And obviously Stone next to him. If I was going to go for three, I was going to go for Stone in the middle, Mings on the left, and Walker on the right.
Mm-hmm. Fullbacks?
James and Shaw.
James had a brilliant season. And just finally, I can't just let you go without saying, which way does the goalkeeping dilemma overflow? Because that's so tricky, and it's a lovely problem to have, but it is difficult.
I've changed my mind about 4 times already. But I ended up with Henderson. It could have gone either way. It could have gone in any which way.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we haven't got any standout, and this is a great a good dilemma to have. We haven't really got it is a good and it's not a good. It would have been nice to have a standout that you can actually just say this is your number one, blah blah blah. But they're pushing each other, so it's great to have that. And I went with Henderson. Pickford's had he's a fantastic player, international player. I just went with Henderson behind that back four.
Changing topics momentarily, please, Emile. One dilemma, it's in no way nice to have, and it's so much tedious that I find myself asking you this question, but I'd like to, please. How do you reflect upon this issue with the booing supporters when the players are taking the knee, making an extremely valid and noble point, and yet there is at least a small proportion of those supporters who are voicing their discontent? How do you reflect upon that?
Look, I think the players are valid in what they're doing. If they believe in it, why can't they do it? We all always say to players, stay out of politics, and then when they stay out of it, then they say, well, you've got a voice, why don't you use your voice? And then when you use your voice, you say, well, stay out of this. Always dictating to players what they can and can't do. The players have told you that what they want, what this is for. Listen to them and either back them or shut up. If you don't like it, then you're part of the problem, because all they're doing is standing up for equality. And if you don't want equality, then say you don't want equality, and own that, because they're owning what they're actually saying. And they're even with the boos, and the funny thing is, booing someone, you're booing your own players. Do you think you're booing your own players is going to make them play better? Do you think they're going to like you anymore? Do you really want someone to come in and start booing you when you're doing your job and you're standing up for people in and around you and your teammates? And this is what people just got to understand and stop trying to have their own narratives on things and listen to what other people are saying at times.
Outstanding answer. Just to further elongate that very slightly, what on earth would go through the players' minds, and would it actually have an effect, or are they just too professional, too qualified, too focused in the moment to even let it affect them in any way, shape or form? But what effect does that have to even an elite group of players like this, to hear supporters booing just as they're about to potentially begin a major international tournament on home soil? It can't be helpful. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. It won't be helpful. But again, like you're saying, they're so professional. I would like to think they could block all that out and go out and then perform and deal with that after. At the end of the day, a lot of these people who are booing have children. Imagine if it was their child being booed on the side, even after they've actually explained why they're actually doing it. Imagine if it was your child being booed from the side. And I don't think these people really, again, you're just following your own narrative and your own thoughts and not listening to what people are saying. But yeah, like you said, I think they're very professional. They'll be blocking all that out and wanting to just perform, wanting to go out there and perform. But again, there might be one of them that it affects. I hope it doesn't, but that's for the group and for the manager to actually knuckle down and make sure it doesn't affect any of them.
Right. Let's drop the shoulder. Let's talk positive, because I want to hear your thoughts, please, Emile, about the frame of mind of those players in the dressing room before this game. Young players, improving players. Some of them not very experienced. Some of them off the back of maybe 1-2 seasons. Players of barely old enough to smoke a cigarette or drive a car or go into a pub, and yet here they are stepping out of the Wembley Stadium tunnel onto that lush green turf. What's the mindset? And I know obviously there are deeply experienced professionals around them, and there's Gareth Southgate, who I'll ask you about separately. But what are those young players going to be feeling? Is it nerves, excitement, adrenaline, energy, butterflies, even a bit of anxiety maybe? All of those things wrapped up?
All of the above. You feel all of the above, but it's how you utilize it. It's how you use it. You've got some fantastic players there going out there, and they will be feeling the butterflies. They'll be feeling anxious, but they'll be feeling very, very proud to be putting on that shirt. And then as well, playing in front of fans, playing in front of their family again, and wanting to perform. We've seen it time and time again within tournaments. Michael Owen taking on the Argentina and putting in the performance that he did, scoring one of the goals of the tournament. Wayne Rooney putting on that shirt, a young lad, hadn't been at the tournament before, but then going and being arguably one of the best players in the tournament. And this is what we've got. This is what we've got, and this is what we're capable of doing. But they've got to utilise that energy to not stifle them, but to really push them. You've got different types of energy as well. You've got some lads who are just quiet, just want their own little space to really get focused and ready for their game. Then you've got some others that have so much energy they want to burn a little bit off, and they're all jumping all over the place. And then you've got others like just sit there meditating, ready for the game. And you've got to understand all that dynamics, and just before the game, and for them to be fully ready to go out there and perform.
Which one of those that you've just described was Emile Heskey?
I was relaxed. I didn't really. I would focus my own energy and be ready. I wasn't one that was jumping all around the change rooms, but I was just really focused on my own self and being ready to go out there and perform.
And of course, they've got the cooling, calming influence of a guy who comes over with almost Zen-like, if you will, a sort of a peaceful aura around him. Gareth Southgate, the manager, who all of a sudden is an experienced England manager. He came close to tournament glory once before. You were picked alongside him, Euro 2000 and World Cup 2002. As an individual, as a person, as a man, what can you tell us about Gareth Southgate?
A very calm individual. And this is probably why he's taken to the role that he is in now. Because even back in 2000, I thought he was fantastic. For him and Martin Keown were fantastic for me, because, again, they were good for the younger players, really getting them back in, getting them to understand the actual dynamics of the group and what it means to be in that tournament, how to prepare yourself for the tournament, etc. Them two were fantastic at that, and that's probably why he's taken a few senior players in this group now to do that as well. Because, again, you do need that senior players to have that calming influence on some of the younger lads. And he was that guy. And then obviously now he's obviously done the 21, so he understands the dynamics of them, the younger players there, now up into the first team, and he's taken some of them 21s up into the first team as well. So he's been fantastic for them.
And is that, when you talk about his example, is that him literally physically putting his arm around you at the end of training and saying, listen, don't worry about tomorrow, we've got this, we're a good group, be calm, make sure you eat the right things, make sure you take on enough fluids, make sure you get X amount of hours sleep? Or is that just you observing from a few meters away how he's doing his stretches, how long he's taking to do the warm-up, whether or not he stays to hit a penalty or a dead ball after training? How does that manifest?
No, he was more a person that will take you to one side. He was more of a person that will sit next to you at dinner, talking to you, making sure that you're included in the group, making sure that you're part of everything that's being done in that camp. So he was fantastic. Like I said, him and Martin Keown were fantastic.
You were called up and played in 4 major international tournaments for England. Not too many people have got that on their CV. Of all the managers you played for, who was your favourite and why, Emile?
I think for me it was Sven. I think he had this calming nature for myself and a lot of the players. He allowed us to express ourselves the way that we wanted to express ourselves, but was very detailed in when we went into games. So when you go into games, you know everything. You know where you needed to be every single moment of that game. So he was fantastic in that, and because I'd already had Gerard Houllier at club level doing that, it was an easier transition when I had Sven as well.
Well, it is upon us. Emile Heskey, Group D, Sunday, 2:00, Wembley Stadium. A nation expects. What do you expect? What's your prediction? How do you see this one going? Where will the game be won and lost? But ultimately, final score, England-Croatia.
Again, I think it's going to be a tough game for us. It's a tough start. Croatia, I think, are an ageing team, even though experience helps. I think it will be won and lost in that midfield, whether you can dominate that midfield. There's plenty of legs in that midfield for us, but there's plenty of experience in that midfield for them. I think on average, something like 90 caps or something silly like that. But I still think that with the youthfulness and the energy that we've got, we can dominate that midfield. We've got to go into it with how can I say? We've got to be on the front foot. We've got to be aggressive in everything that we do. Put pressure on them, and I think we'll win that game.
Final score: England-Croatia.
I'm going to go for a 2-0. I'd love to keep a clean sheet.
2-0 England, at which case it will be bring on the Scots Friday night. An absolute gift to sports fans. And well, what a game that will be. We will join you momentarily to get your thoughts on that in just a few days' time. In the meantime, settle back, relax, and enjoy the Group D opener. Emile, thanks as ever for being with us. Look forward to talking to you next time.
Thank you very much.